Fear Not, Episode 26. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Doepker. Welcome, Derek. Welcome to the show today. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Billy. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Derek is a former rock guitar player turned author of the #1 best-selling book, Break Through Your BS. He specializes in helping intelligent people burdened with endless mind chatter develop self-mastery and emotional connection with clever mind games. He's committed to empowerment, enlightenment, and compassion. You can find his books on Amazon and excuseproof.com. Derek, can you take a few seconds to sort of fill in the gaps and maybe give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Yeah, sure thing, Billy. So, as you just read, I was a rock guitar player. That was my background. I never thought I'd be writing books or doing any of the things that I'm doing right now. And I went and got my degree in music composition in Nashville, Tennessee at Belmont University. My dream was to become a rock star, still is in many ways. And that's what I figured I'd be doing with most of my life, and everything seemed pretty simple. But going through that process, and especially when I was facing just being completely broke uh, and like struggling financially, that's when I started my journey of entrepreneurship. So one of the things which I'm sure I'll be talking about today was the move to Los Angeles, coming out here, how scary that was to pursue music and going through a lot of the challenges. I had this passion to start a business and to share the things that I was passionate about, which really at the time was more health and fitness. And so I started blogging and creating businesses and ultimately getting into writing books as a way to support myself. Struggled a lot through that process. Didn't work out for the first couple years, but eventually had some breakthroughs. And so uh, that's where I've been the past several years. That was 2011, and I can go deeper into the story. I'm sure as things will come up, but 2011 and a few years of basically um, being a valet parker, barely able to pay my bills, delivering hot wings, trying to make the music thing work, trying to make a business thing work. And so lots of good opportunities to test myself and to test my commitment and to test my ability to overcome fears of losing it all or nothing working out or what if this is just a big waste of time. And eventually, though, getting through that, coming out the other side, I'm now able to share what I love with people, which is, health and fitness, but more these concepts of personal development, mind mastery of our mind, of our emotions, emotional resilience, and a lot of the little games that we can play with ourselves to get motivated, to stay motivated, and to have more passion in our life, so we can ultimately reach our dreams and achieve our dreams in spite of a lot of the challenges life is going to throw our way.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had quite an interesting journey to this point, and thank you so much for sharing with us. Um, as we begin, and if you wouldn't mind, would you share one of those biggest fears that you've had to face with us?
Sure thing. So I mean, there's a number of different fears that I was thinking of as preparing for this interview, and I was thinking about the two things that I could touch on that would be, I think, most helpful. So there's fears that are like the immediate fear, which is for me, like maybe if I look over and I see a giant spider, not a big fan of spiders, that's gonna like freak me out. That's a strong visceral fear. But that's kind of temporary and probably not too helpful to just, learn how to get over that. Plenty of other resources. So for me, the fears that are most maybe dangerous are the very subtle fears of doubts and what ifs, which came up for in my case before moving to Los Angeles. So I graduated, got my degree in music, and I had the dream ultimately was always to move to LA. And the fear wasn't overwhelming. It was just subtle enough that I thought, well, that'd be cool, but I don't know. I mean, I hear things about LA, maybe the people aren't always the nicest, which turns out there's amazing people here in LA. Who would have thought with millions of people? Of course they're amazing people, but that's how the mind works, right? Well, I don't know about some of the people in LA, and while I hear traffic is really bad and it's super competitive out there in music, and it's these subtle little doubts and what ifs that for a long time kept me apprehensive about moving to Los Angeles. It wasn't until I had a guy I knew that lived out here who told me, like, hey, man, you can actually make something of yourself out here. You actually have the talent, that I actually got some of the courage to do it. And one of the things that helped me overcome the fear of moving to Los Angeles was a quote by Jim Rohn as I started my journey of personal development shortly after graduating. I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, we all must suffer one of two pains: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret and disappointment. And so that concept, I mean, I take that with me when it comes to health and fitness, but when it came to pursuing my dreams, it really got me to step back and go, okay, what's going to happen if in 5 years I haven't really made a move to do what I want to do with my life, and I haven't really gone after my dreams, and I've settled. I know that even if I was comfortable in the moment, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I would really regret that decision. And so a lot of the fears or even just sort of the subtle apprehension or doubts, the things that aren't so strong, but they're just there kind of on a subconscious level holding me back. And then I see it hold some other people back. That's when it took some conscious effort to just step back and go, okay, what's this going to cost me to live my life like this? If I keep going in the direction that I'm going, where am I going to end up years down the road? Because I'm not going to be feeling the same way I feel now. And so that's one of the important sort of mind games, if we talk about this, is that there's a quote that, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. And that's only kind of a partial truth. So if you really look at it, the world changes around you and you're constantly changing whether you want to or not. So to give a business analogy, if Blockbuster keeps doing what they've always done, they don't keep getting what they've always gotten, they go out of business. Okay. If people keep doing what they've always done in a relationship and it's at the status quo and it's mediocre, then 5 years from now, that relationship, or 10 years from now, that relationship might end because things are growing or they're dying. So this ability to not just focus on what the present moment situation is and going, okay, well, things are good enough right now. I mean, I'm comfortable right now, but go, okay, just because I'm comfortable right now living in Nashville, Tennessee, 5 years from now, if I'm still here, still doing the same things, knowing that I could have done and gone something that would have really filled my heart with joy, or so much more in alignment with what I really want to do with my life, I'm not going to be comfortable. I'm going to have a lot of regret and feel very disappointed with what I could have done. And that feeling of pain or the fear of that is greater than the fear of just, let's say, going for it and facing whatever challenges come up. So in a certain way, I almost, if you talk about a way to overcome fear, is sort of use fear, instead of a fear being something that pushes me back, use fear that pushes me forward, because now I'm fearing more the alternative. I'm fearing more what's going to happen if I don't face these fears and break through it. So that was the big thing. And then that concept, if I look at other fears of starting my business and, what if I put all this time and money into it and it doesn't work out? It was a lot of the same sort of concepts in mind games and tricks that I can get into even more here of it's not just what if this doesn't work out, is what if I don't even try, and what if I could have helped so many people and I didn't, and what if people really want what I have to offer and I don't give it to them? So fear is often that what if game. And so I just say, okay, keep playing the what if game, but play it on your terms. Instead of saying, what if everything goes wrong? What if I don't do it? And that's even worse. What if I settle? What if the status quo and mediocrity leaves me even more miserable? And I realize, I'd feel much better about myself having gone for it, having faced my fears, having made an honest effort, even if it didn't work out. I would feel better with that than I know that I would feel, a year or several years down the road if I looked at myself and say, man, I didn't even try. I didn't even give it that effort.
Since you do sort of specialize in these mind games that help with the endless mind chatter, and as I'm sitting here and some of the research that I've done on you as well, that used to be a big thing for me when I used to live in fear. That the constant battle between the what ifs and the doubt and the actual path of what to do almost sort of created a paralysis. So could you maybe explain your philosophy about that a little bit more and maybe give us a tip on how we could start to move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the moving out of the chatter is the goal is not necessarily to not have the mind chatter or to not have the fear, because first of all, that's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, and it can serve a purpose. So the first thing is to not even see it as the enemy, but see it as a potential friend. And just that shift in mindset, that is not something I have to get rid of. It's not something I have to turn off or escape from, all of a sudden takes away, the fear of the fear in a sense. And it takes away the, oh my God, I have all this mind chatter. I got to like shut it up. And then it's like that resisting it almost makes it persist. There's that saying, what you resist persists.
Hmm.
So it's kind of that same concept in that, first of all, let's look at it as a friend. Fear can be a friend. And this is, it's actually kind of common sense. And when we think that fear was a survival mechanism, it does keep us alive in certain circumstances. The issue is that it kicks in and stops a lot of people when it doesn't really need to. It's not really something to fear, and so just the relationship, changing the relationship from a resistance to a welcoming to an accepting, is the first thing. And with that comes listening to some of the doubt. So a lot of times fear is, there's a concept, and I hear it from Marsha Weeder. She was a popular coach and writes books and worked with Jack Canfield as his coach. Marshall Weeder talks about the concept that we have like our inner doubter and our inner realist. So a lot of times the inner doubter is going, what if this goes wrong? What if that happens? What if blah 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 blah? And so learning how to manage that and be friends with that inner voice is a big step, because it won't be as strong or as sort of in your face, in your ear, once you've gotten what it's trying to say. So taking some time to write down, this is what I'm feeling, this is what thoughts are going through my head, these are some of my doubts, and listening to that, here's what can happen, here's, acknowledging it, and letting it have its say. And then it could be as simple as thank you for sharing, or okay, I see what's going on, some of these things are legitimate concerns. Let me figure out a strategy for how to deal with that. So I'm going to use business as an example. What if I lose some money? Okay, well, there's typically some investments involved. That's normal. What can I do to minimize my risk? And then it becomes very much a strategy type of thing. Another fear of mine is, or fear, I don't know if I'd say that's like a big thing for me now, but certainly there's been conversations where vulnerability, opening up, self-expression in relationships. What if this person rejects me? That's a big thing for me. And so acknowledging those doubts, and then also being able to say, okay, but if I don't do that, then I'm never going to have the closeness and connection that I want. And isn't that what I'm really after? And being able to kind of just put it out there, take a step back, have a third party sort of perspective, observer perspective, and really see it for what it is. But that starts with being friends with that, the doubting voice, the realist voice, letting it have its say, and being able to take a look at that. And then the other thing is simply taking action. It's a concept that's phrase that's thrown out there a lot, especially in the personal development world, take action. Really moving towards what you want in spite of doubts starts to quiet that voice. So what happens is a big reason people have a lot of self-doubt is they've broken trust with themselves. And so let's say the New Year's resolution, New Year's is coming up. Person says, I'm gonna get in great shape this year. I'm going to do whatever. And then what happens is the voice in their head says, how many times have you said you were going to do that before and it didn't work out? What makes you think this time is going to be any different? And so all the doubt comes up because a person has broken their word so many times, broken their word with themselves. They didn't do what they told themselves they were going to do. And so this starts with taking the smallest steps. And I use just three magic words. This is like my ultimate technique to move forward, overcome fear, overcome procrastination, overcome so many different things. It's all handled with these three magic words, and they are, can I just? And then pick the smallest step that I can take that doesn't elicit a fear response in the right direction. So, for instance, someone might be freaked out about writing a book. Okay, well, I teach them, they could use the concept. Can I just come up with a few book title ideas, and then I can stop if I want? Can I just write one sentence of this book, and then I can stop after that? And it's so easy that a person goes, well, yeah, of course, and they start doing that, and next thing they know, they're doing a little bit more. Or with fitness, can I just do one push up, right? And I don't feel like working out today. Can I just do one push up? I do that. And the next thing you know, I'm doing 10. The next thing you know, I'm doing the rest of my workout. But it's so small that the mind doesn't take a person out. Well, how does this work with fear? Fear is oftentimes a feeling of overwhelm. It's too much. I can't handle this. This is too intense. Well, find something that's just a few notches down from that that won't elicit that level of fear response. I'm freaked out to go up and talk to this complete stranger. Okay, that's fine. Can I just, mill around and make eye contact with some people? Well, that's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I can do that. Okay, great. And start doing that. Well, now can I just smile at a few people and say, hey, and then I can just kind of keep walking past them. I don't have to actually engage them. Can I just do that? And then as gradually sort of ramp up and get more comfortable, something happens. And it's this concept of momentum generates motivation. If you've ever found once you kind of get into something, then you sort of just naturally want to keep doing more of it. If once I, that's the idea, like once I start doing even just a couple push-ups, even if I didn't want to work out before, now I'm kind of into it. Can also work the other way. Once I watch one episode of a TV show on Netflix, next thing you know, it's like binge watching it, right? It can go in any
Yeah.
any direction. So take that same concept. Once I just kind of get in motion and start doing a little bit of it, the body acclimates to it. It goes, okay, maybe there's just a subtle little bit of a stress response at first, but it's not overwhelming. And then it kind of calms down. The nervous system calms down. Okay. And then this is where you keep asking the question and ramp it up gradually. Can I just do one more? Can I just do it for a little longer? Can I just take it a little further? Can I just whatever that next thing is? And remember, it's always okay for the answer to be no. That's the other thing. You're asking yourself, and so it's not a forced, I need to do this, I have to do this, I feel so ashamed of myself if I don't do this. It's, can I choose to do this? And can I choose to find something that is maybe a stretch, but not overwhelming, and something that I can, just enough of a stretch that I can even maybe get a little excited about it. And as soon as I do that, if I do even just the littlest thing and then I stop, I celebrate that, because that's the next part, is to reward yourself and celebrate it. That can just be a simple acknowledgement to myself. All right, nice job, Derek. Good job. Way to go. And that's so important because now you want to get that dopamine, you want to get that sense of accomplishment tied to moving in the direction that you want to go in. So you take the small action, you celebrate, you reward yourself even just with an internal sense of satisfaction, and you keep doing this. And eventually what happens is you regain trust in yourself that you do what you say you're going to do. So it's just like if you don't trust a person, if they're always late, every single time you meet with them, they're always late. If they suddenly show up one day on time and say that, okay, I'm going to be on time from now on, Do you trust that they're going to be on time all the time because they showed up on time once? Or do you still have a little doubt? Well, most people are like, well, okay, I'm not going to trust someone just because they followed their word once when they've broken, so many times. But if they show up on time now every day for a meeting, let's say now 7 days in a row, your trust might go up a little bit, but you're still looking for one thing before you have trust with them completely. And that one thing is consistency. Doesn't matter if they show up 10 minutes early or 20 minutes early. Doesn't matter if they show up on time now for 3 days in a row or 7 days in a row. It's going to take a month. It's going to take a couple months. But eventually, after a year of them following through on their word and every single day now showing up on time, you'd probably forget that they ever were, used to be late in the first place. You might find that you now have regained trust in them. And it's that same process of regaining trust in yourself, building that consistency. And for many people, if they have that broken trust, maybe just in certain areas of their life, maybe it's just in their health and fitness, maybe just in certain areas of relationships or their goals that they set, whatever it is, start to get that consistency back with just the littlest things, just saying I'm going to do something and then following through, just saying I'm going to work out for 5 minutes a day 3 days a week, or just saying I'm going to have one open honest conversation with my partner once a week for 5 minutes. We're going to set this as a practice, or whatever it is. Pick the thing that you can follow through with all the time and start doing that. As soon as a person picks something that's beyond their capacity or sets themselves up for failure, that further erodes trust. So that's one of the biggest things, is to take those steps, to see yourself actually moving towards what you want, to see yourself even facing some of these fears, and at least doing something, even just the littlest thing. And now you start to be able to change your identity and go, I am someone that has some confidence. I am someone that has courage. I am someone that moves towards what I want, in spite of any feelings or doubts or resistance that I have. And now your identity starts to shift, and then it further, once again, that momentum generates motivation. That momentum starts to create an internal in you. So that's sort of like my little back pocket trick that you can take for anything. For me, if I want to clean my apartment and it's too overwhelming, I'm procrastinating, can I just clean my desk for a minute? Next thing you know, I'm cleaning the whole desk, then I'm cleaning the counter, and it snowballs. So that's one thing. And then there's one other big thing to strengthen against fear, that I'll drop in real quick, that I talk about in my book, Break Through Your BS. And this is the concept that if you get outside of yourself, you get outside of your fear. So I say, be more committed to your cause than to your comfort. And this is what you see with, great leaders, people who are very inspirational. They are so dedicated to their mission or to a cause that their own personal comfort isn't as much of a concern for them. It's like, would you put your life at risk, run into a burning building to save a loved one, or run across a busy highway to save a loved one? If you would put yourself at risk to save someone that you love, it's not because you don't have fear. You might still be a little bit freaked out. It's because something is more powerful than the fear. And so the idea is not, let's say, getting rid of the fear, which we mentioned we can't do. It's what is stronger than it? What am I more driven towards? What do I love so much? And who do I love so much that is more powerful than any fear that could hold me back? And so finding that, or just a very simple trick that I use, I'm going to make it very practical, something I call case study mindset. So what this means is turning what I'm doing, whatever project it is, into sort of a case study that I'm going to use to help other people. So if this is writing a book, which surprisingly some people don't, think much of it, and they start writing a book and they realize how many fears come out when writing a book of, what if this sucks? What if no one buys it? What if people think I'm an idiot and I get bad reviews? All this stuff comes up. So when writing a book, I'm not just going to write this book. I'm going to document everything that I did, and I'm going to share it with other aspiring authors when I'm done, to help them get their book written or help them market their book or whatever. And since I'm now doing it as a means of helping more people, or writing the book itself is a way of helping people, if I have my own doubts and fears of what if I put money into this and no one buys it? I'm not thinking of that. I now switch my mentality and go, but what if I put money into this and it helps reach the one person whose life it's going to change? Now I switch that. Or a person that wants to, you're going to hear me come back to health and fitness examples a lot because that's, part of my background. A person is starting their journey of let's say weight loss. It's not just I'm going to lose weight on my own. It's I'm going to lose weight, but I'm going to have a blog about it, or a YouTube channel about it. And I'm going to share my tips and my struggles and what I learned from it with other people going through this journey. And so now it's like I'm going to step up and really kind of keep myself accountable, because now I'm being a leader and I'm helping other people through my process, or I'm going to document it and share my journey with other people. And now all of a sudden, you start to value lessons more than successes. And what this means is, even if something doesn't work out, even if I try something and it doesn't work, great. That's an awesome lesson that I can share with people of what not to do. And so now I don't have a fear of trying things or being experimental or really just going for it, because it's like, if it works, awesome. That's something I can share with people. If it doesn't work, just as good. I can still share that with people and share my experience. And so this being a teacher, it might not be for everyone, but for me, being a teacher and taking everything I go through as a lesson that I can share with others allows me to embrace things and try new things I might not otherwise try, because it's all part of a grand experiment or a grand case study that's ultimately going to help a lot of people with that experience.
It seems to me too, the imagery that I'm getting in my head as you're speaking, it's like you're leaving a roadmap. And it seems to me like when you do that, that the natural flow, like you're just moving and you're leaving it behind you for others to follow, sort of like creating a wake. It's fascinating.
Yeah, so creating that roadmap, all of a sudden, what that means is, like, that's such a great analogy, because if I'm creating a roadmap and I come up against an obstacle or a block, or I need to take a detour, I'm not like, oh man, this sucks. I came up against an obstacle or a roadblock. I go, okay, great. This is really good. I'm glad I figured this out so other people don't have to, they don't take the same path. I can help them avoid it, and I can map it out for them so they don't have to go through that same experience. So now all of a sudden the roadblocks or the obstacles are awesome. I'm like, this makes my map even better and even more helpful for people.
So I know that you've mentioned like Weider and Rohn, and given that you have so much experience and a journey, are there other resources that you could recommend for us that might be beneficial for us as well?
Yeah, so one of the resources that really helped me is this concept of letting go. And so I believe Lester Levinson was the first sort of like person to popularize it. So the Sedona method is the book that I've read by Hale Dwoskin, and gone through the training. And basically a process of emotional releasing, releasing attachment and resistance to certain, things that come up in life. So the ability to practice letting go was very profound and very helpful. And so from an emotional standpoint, learning that concept and practicing it is really powerful. And it's simple. There's not really much to learn about it. A few questions of can I let this go? Would I let this go? It ultimately gets back in touch. Like, if you've been in driving a car, and for me, this is living in LA, get upset with the traffic and I'm flustered or whatever, and then 5 minutes later can't even remember it, right? That's an example of letting it go. Some people, though, there's things that happen, what someone says to someone, and then 10 years later they still remember it. When they think back at it, they still get hot and bothered about it. Clearly they haven't let that go. And so the process of consciously working through the emotions, letting it go in things like that, that's powerful. I also have a background in neuro-linguistic programming, and there's a number of tools and techniques in NLP that can help a person overcome anxiety. Things like timeline therapy can be very powerful. So I would say the Sedona method and NLP are two resources offhand that can be helpful. And ultimately, I think one of the biggest things, though, and you kind of get this with the Sedona method, is the attitude shift that comes from not fearing fear. Once again, make it a friend, and it's funny, a lot of the charge goes away. So the mentality that, yes, it is important to overcome fear, not let it stop us, and at the same time, it's sort of a paradox in saying maybe I don't really need to overcome it. Maybe there's just something more powerful that's going to drive me, to where the fear just becomes a simple guiding mechanism, and not necessarily the enemy. So it's more about keeping it in check and making sure it's only there when it needs to be there, to keep us safe from real danger, and not kicking in and knocking us out, in 21st century living, of fearing a lot of the things that people fear that aren't actually a threat, to our survival.
If someone wants to connect with you, Derek, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way, my my website's excuseproof.com. You can also send me an email, info@excuseproof.com. My books are on Amazon, and so the book most relevant for overcoming fear, which is the big concept of it, overcoming fear as well as turning it into your friend, and a lot of these mind games, come from the book Breakthrough Your BS, which is breakthroughyyourbs.com, or a simple search on Amazon. We'll find it on, ebook, print book, or audiobook.
And what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
What comes up for me is, once again, be more committed to your cause than to your comfort. When you find something that you're passionate about, that will drive you. And with that, I wanted to give this caveat, in that I know I've myself and some people I know say, well, I'm not really sure what my cause is. I'm not sure what my purpose is. I kind of feel like my life is meaningless, and I haven't discovered it yet. I just, for me, I was a guitar player to fitness guy to writing these books to doing these different things. What difference is any of this going to make? Like, what what is my cause? Who's even going to listen to me? Who's paying attention? Like, a lot of that, comes up. And so part of the cause could simply be having this remembering that sometimes what you do that makes the biggest difference in people's lives isn't something grand. Sometimes the person who, if you think about your own life and in my life, it's the person who smiles when someone is feeling, down. The person, smiling at someone as they're walking down the street. Now, I'm not a very smiley person, so maybe that's not my biggest gift, but for some people, that's what they offer. Simply being there to listen, to someone. I can say that the people who've made the biggest difference in my life aren't necessarily the best-selling authors and the big speakers. Is a friend who was willing to sit there, and be with me when, through hard times, or to listen to me without judging me, or, these sort of quote unquote everyday things that we all have the capacity to offer to the world. Sometimes that's what makes the biggest difference. And just showing up as that type of person, showing up from that place, is enough to make a difference in people's lives. So a cause doesn't have to be, creating world peace or ending all hunger. It can be that, and also realize that it's the little things, just like that. It's these little things that can ripple out and snowball and actually have a real impact on the world when you show up from that place of being your best self. And that means oftentimes working through that resistance. And the biggest and most insidious resistance and fear out there is, this isn't going to make any difference. Why bother? And so I would say learning to overcome that fear, learning to acknowledge that and put that aside and say, that's not the case, I do make a difference, is going to be one of the most, important things for really living greatly.
That's really, really great advice, actually. And it's triggering a lot of memories here. But I want to thank you for sharing, and thank you for coming on the show, and really just thank you for being so generous with your time and your knowledge today. It's been really great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Billy. It's been a pleasure, and it's a topic that I love, talking about and having the opportunity to share. So, it's been great being given this opportunity. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.